welcome to all of you at Congleton Heritage and Antiques Festival. Adam Partridge here, your local auctioneer. I've been asked to do a talk to you about Northern art, and I'm delighted to be able to do so. Just a shame I can't be there in person, but I'm here in our auction house. If you can hear some background noise, that's because we've got a sale going on right now. I've taken a break from the rostrum to tell you a little bit about some of the pieces we've got coming up in our Northern art auction. I'd like to start with almost the founder of the Northern art movement, and that's this piece here. There we go, it's rather nice, isn't it? Which is by Pierre, Adolf, Valet. We've got a good gallery label on the back there, the Tib Lane Gallery. Adolf Valet was a French Impressionist painter, 1876 to 1942. He moved to England in around 1904, and he was well known for his Manchester urban landscapes. There's a room, in fact, in the Manchester Art Gallery devoted entirely to Valet. Another thing he's very well known for was being a tutor at the Manchester School of Art, and one of his most famous pupils was LS Lowry. So we'll move on to the famous Lowry, who really needs no introduction. LS Lowry, one of the most famous painters of the 20th century, and particularly here in the Northwest. We're delighted to have a couple of original works here. Not sure if you can see that very well with the light. Shall I take it off and bring it across there? It's a little bit informal. Those of you who've attended my talks before will be used to this level of informality. But there we have an original, that's a better angle, isn't it? An original Lowry pencil drawing. That's the one. It's called Old House. Again, a label on the back is very important to have. I'll just pop him back up. In fact, let's get him back up on the wall. Now, what's interesting about this drawing is that it's actually featured in the book here, The Drawings of LS Lowry, Public and Private, by Mervyn Levy, the famous book about Lowry. And there we have figure 120, and there you'll see our drawing, Old House, illustrated in the Lowry book. You can't get much more genuine than that. We've got another Lowry pencil drawing to show you from when he spent his time in Reilly. And in fact, if I refer back to the book first, you'll see there's a picture here of Reilly Harbour. And the book tells us that Lowry visited Reilly in 1924 for the first time and made a few drawings in the vicinity of the harbour. The following year he spent a summer holiday there and made many more drawings. He was fascinated by harbours and boats, and I think that this one is a particularly nice drawing. In fact, this is my favourite. I prefer it to the house. And if we have a look here, we'll see it says Reilly and was signed and dated. And what's the date? 1924. Ties up absolutely perfectly with the book there. And again, we've got a nice little inscription on the back saying Reilly Harbour. Now, these are original pencil drawings by Lowry. They're really quite valuable. We'd expect them to be around. Can't have it out of sync there. Oh, they're wobbling. Can't have it perfect, can we? But we'd imagine that those would be £20,000 plus for each of those. We also see lots of Lowry prints come through. I've put a couple down here because a lot of people don't think that the prints are worth much at all. There we've got a black and white one, and if you see down this bottom right hand corner, you can see it's signed in the margin in pencil. That's the crucial bit, that you've got the signing in pencil in the margin. Without this signature, this is worth £50. With the signature, it's worth the best part of a couple of £1,000s. So that's something to look out for, just the pencil signature. Here's another little example here that I picked up on a visit in Bolton. That's one known as People Standing About. There we are, a classic sort of Lowry image. Once again, you can see that it's been signed in the margin as well, making it a hand-signed print worth £2,000 or £3,000. So we've talked about Adolf Valet. He was the tutor for Lowry. We've talked about Lowry, and he was the tutor of Harold Reilly, and that's the artist we're going to be talking about next. So Harold Reilly was a student of Lowry's, and in fact just here we can see Harold Reilly's portrait of Lowry. Let's have a look and show you. That is a Harold Reilly portrait of LS Lowry. Rather a good likeness, really. And a very good artist again, Harold Reilly, one of the major figures in the Northern School of Art. Harold Reilly actually sold his first painting to the Manchester City Art Gallery aged just 11. He was a student and later friend of Lowry's, and they worked together on a lot of projects, particularly recording the normal people of Salford and those typical industrial northern mill scenes. Harold Reilly became a very famous artist after that. He's been commissioned to do portraits of royal families, popes, political figures, including Nelson Mandela and many others, and he's also very well known as an eminent sporting artist, particularly in golf and football. Now we've got a selection of works all along here by Harold Reilly, and I'm going to bring one from from the side here to show you, which is, again, my personal favourite and possibly the most valuable. What a lovely, lovely oil on canvas that is by Harold Reilly. It's the old Hippodrome. You can see the lamplighter outside, a frequent theme in Reilly's paintings. We've actually sold this one a few years ago for a bit over £15,000, and the owner in London has now consigned it with a load of other works by Harold Reilly. Another big name in 20th century British art, not just Northern art, but British art of the 20th century, is Theodore Major. What a great character as well. It was a very eccentric Wigan-based artist. He said he was self-taught, but he did study at the Wigan Art School and then taught there for about 20 years, from around 1930 to 1950. He was another close contemporary of Lowry's, and he was well known generally for these grim, disturbing views of streets, factories, people, seascapes, nudes, and also nightmare memories and that sort of thing. His mission, in a way, was, I quote, to disturb and extend consciousness in the mind of the viewer. He was a real eccentric. He didn't want to sell his art to rich people for investment. In fact, he often refused to sell paintings. And I believe that he had up to 3,000 paintings stashed away in the house next door that he refused to sell to collectors unless he thought they had a genuine interest in his work. He's also featured in the Manchester Art Gallery, the Salford Art Gallery, alongside those that we've mentioned, the Harold Reilly and Lowry's, etc. There's a book coming out soon as well about Major's work, and he really is, to coin a pun, a major artist of the 20th century. And this is a great work of his. It sort of typifies his sort of work, with that bleak sort of landscape and the sun looming from behind, and also very expensive work that we're going to be selling, and probably the main name coming out of Wigan, although we mustn't forget the works of James Lawrence Isherwood, whose works tend to be in the hundreds and low thousands, who was also a well-known artist from Wigan. We'll move on now over to Stockport, just to the right. In fact, we'll keep moving, shall we? I've got my camera operator. You wouldn't believe this, but our iPad, we're filming this on an iPad, and it's balanced on top of a cabinet and supported by a Chinese vase. It's not the highest tech operation we've got here, but hopefully this talk is slightly interesting and informative. These are works by Trevor Grims, very well known for his stylised monochrome graphite drawings. Trains and chimneys were his major theme. Again, we see that sort of almost rather depressing northern landscape with the smoking chimneys and the trains. Trevor Grims was born in 1947 in Hyde, died in 2001 in a house fire. He was an interesting character, an alcoholic and a recluse. Also friends with Lowry, and you may have seen some of his works featured on the BBC Flog It programme when they came to film with us back in 2011, when I believe we established auction records for his work at auction at around the £3,000–4,000 mark. Obviously some of these will be slightly more or less, but this one here I can imagine being at that sort of level. So that's Trevor Grimshaw covered. Other artists to mention in the Northern School that we haven't got to show you today, but Harry Rutherford's another big name. He was another tutor of Harold Reilly. Of course, we've got Arthur Delaney, who is another artist hugely influenced by Lowry, and he was well known for his Manchester street scenes, trams, etc. We see a lot of Delaney works coming through. Of course, there was Helen Bradley. We have to have a female artist in the mix here. Helen Bradley, born in 1900, died in 1979. Actually, she only really discovered fame as an artist in her 60s. The story, I believe, I've met a few people who knew her, but she ended up living in Wilmslow, just round the corner. But I believe that she used to do the teas when Lowry did an art class in Wilmslow, because Helen Bradley's husband was an artist himself, and Helen Bradley did the teas, and Lowry had to come out and do had a painting with a fish knife, a palette painting, and he spotted something in it. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Helen Bradley became extremely famous later in life. She met Lowry, became famous, was all over the television. She was well known for those sort of naive style oils of life in the Edwardian era, and every one of them told a story, and there would be a story on the back of these pictures. You may particularly know her for the Miss Carter figure. Miss Carter always wore pink, and she featured in all of Helen Bradley's paintings. She also had a little fly device or monogram that she signed her works with a fly, and the legend with that was Nellie Bly caught a fly. That was Helen Bradley. Another artist relevant particularly to Congleton, although he wasn't born in Congleton, he ended up living there later in life, is William Turner, or William Ralph Turner, 1920 to 2013. Described mainly as one of the last authentic northern industrial artists. He again was hugely influenced by Lowry, but he developed his own distinctive style, influenced by the French and German expressionist schools, and he was particularly fond of depicting the Stockport Viaduct, a familiar feature in many of his works, and he ended up living in Congleton. He was only rediscovered as an artist at the age of about 80, and found fame far later in life, and his works again command thousands of pounds. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm just going to show you my final work now, which is by the artist Geoffrey Key. The final artist I'd like to tell you about today is Geoffrey Key. Born in 1941 in the Salford area, a charming man as well. He's a regular visitor to our auction rooms here in Macclesfield, and he sends us a beautiful Christmas card every year. He's got the most lovely handwriting and calligraphic writing. Here's a work of his from 1985. His style has changed and evolved over the years, but I suppose the best way to describe it is that he was hugely influenced by the school of European modernism, and he's massively admired and collected all around the world. Some people describe him as the most important living painter. He also studied under Harry Rutherford, as we've mentioned before, and as I say, here's an example of his work as well, which is coming up in our Northern Art auction. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation about Northern Art as part of the Congleton Heritage and Antiques Festival. I'm sorry not to be able to talk to you in person, but you probably haven't missed much. If you have any interest in Northern Art, all of these works will be included in our specialist auction here in Macclesfield on the 23rd of October. Why not visit our website adampartridge.co.uk for more information, and thank you for watching.